Let's talk about a guy. Brian Cashman has drawn the ire of Yankees fans for the last few years. Many are hopeful that if the Yankees miss the postseason, ownership might make a change. There was a report today from Bob Klapisch of NJ.com that said the idea of firing Cashman isn't even on the table. It's not up for discussion. Harp, what would you do if you're the Yankees with Brian Cashman, assuming they miss the postseason?
Well, it should at least be up for discussion. I mean, come on. I mean, if they miss the playoffs here, and a lot of it has more to do with the construction of the roster, a lot of things have really backfired on Cashman now. And listen, the guy has had a great run of success over the years, getting to the playoffs every year. He's had a big budget to work with, obviously. But I do think there has to come a point where, you know, maybe you just need to make a change for change's sake when things aren't working. And I know it feels like maybe it's that time for the Yankees that they need a new voice to kind of shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes we see this in baseball where there aren't changes for a really long time. I think about the St. Louis Cardinals, and not just because I'm from there, but John Mozeliak has been in charge for a really long time. And while there's been success, it's not been the success that they've expected, right? They're starved as well. And I feel like in baseball, you have to be willing to adapt. You have to be willing to make those changes. And sometimes it's painful and sometimes it doesn't feel good. But when you refuse to change and when you refuse to kind of be more malleable to what's happening in baseball, I feel like you get left behind. The Yankees, to me, are not scary anymore. They don't make me shiver in my boots anymore. I'm not afraid of anything about this team, and that's who the New York Yankees are, and they've lost that, so maybe it's time for a bigger change.
I thought the time to do that was 2 years ago in the regular season, where the Yankees historically were fine in the regular season. They would just struggle and be different in the postseason. But in 2021, they struggled in the regular season. Cashman then made a couple of moves. They traded for Rizzo and Gallo. They get to the postseason, losing the wild card game, and then they were kept on. That, to me, would have been the time to do it. Similar to with the Yankees, Harp, they told Brian Cashman after Game 7 in the ALCS, they told Joe Girardi, hey, you were great, but just time for a change. It's not that Cashman isn't good at his job. It's just time for a new vision within that organization.
But let's also make the point that Hal Steinbrenner has changed in some ways in terms of his spending. Look, he went and he got Judge, he got Cole, but if they had signed Corey Seager like they should have, put him a left-handed bat, one of the best shortstop, maybe the best shortstop in the game. He's hitting it for the Rangers now. They'd be in a much better position than sitting around for 2 years waiting for Volpe, who the jury is still out on.
Well, for me, it's Luis Castillo. It's the swing and a miss on Luis Castillo. You get Frankie Montas, and that offseason, I think, and the trade deadline before.
And Donaldson.
That for me starts to add up. And again, like, you got to change with the times and be willing to adapt and go a little outside the box, and they haven't.
Well, if you're not going to give up your top prospects for the best players, and you're not going to spend money on the best players in free agency, how are you getting big talent in here? It hasn't worked waiting on these guys that they drafted, waiting for them to develop. It's been a fail for the Yankees, and that is why, in part at least, they are where they are right now on the outside looking in of the postseason.